Welcome back, everybody. In today's video, we're going to talk about the staff and we'll learn how to read music on the staff. We've already learned the names of the notes from our previous video where we looked at the keyboard. So if you haven't checked that out, be sure to look at it so you know what we're talking about as we discuss the names of these notes and everything that we'll learn today. If you've already seen it, go ahead and keep watching and we'll get started. In music, we use what's called a staff to notate where the notes are. The staff is 5 lines, each line signifying a specific note, and we also use the spaces between the lines to show the notes. Now, along with the staff, we use 2 clefs. We use a treble clef and a bass clef. These allow us to show the exact notes that we're looking for when we're playing music. The treble clef shows the higher notes and the bass clef shows the lower notes. And if you were to play these on a piano, typically your right hand plays the notes in the treble clef and the left hand plays the notes in the bass clef. Let's go ahead and take a look at each of these clefs separately. First, let's look at the treble clef. This is what the treble clef looks like. And there are 5 lines, like we said before, with 4 spaces between, and each of those signify a specific note. The lines starting from the bottom to the top go E, G, B, D, and F. And then the spaces between those lines go F, A, C, E. Now, in order to help you remember the exact note names in the order, often people will use certain phrases where each word starts with the letter that corresponds to the line. For example, in treble clef, where we have the lines being E, G, B, D, F, one phrase that I learned was, "Every good boy deserves fudge." And that helps me to remember exactly which note I'm looking at when I'm looking at the treble clef. Now for the spaces, it's already pretty easy because it spells F-A-C-E, or the word face. So for that one, we don't really need any phrase to help us. Next, we'll look at the bass clef. This is what the bass clef looks like. The lines for this clef are G, B, D, F, A, and the spaces are A, C, E, G. A phrase that I use to remember the lines are "Great big dogs fight animals," and a phrase for the spaces are "All cars eat gas." You are welcome to use these phrases, or you can come up with your own to help you remember the spaces and the lines of each clef. Now, when we look at these 2 clefs together in a full staff, what we call the grand staff, where we have them both together, the middle C is the note that's between the 2 staffs, and the C lies on its own line that we write in. Now this brings us to our next section on ledger lines. Ledger lines are lines that we write in to help us extend the space of the staffs. If we were to only use the range of the staffs, that would limit us significantly, but by writing in additional lines, we're able to extend the range of the notes above and below the staffs. For example, we looked at middle C, which was in the middle between the 2 staves, and you could use the ledger line below the lowest note of the treble clef or above the highest note of the bass clef. You can also use ledger lines to go high above treble clef or low below bass clef. The trick with these are you have to count every line or ledger line between the note that you're reading and the top of the end of the staff, and you just use the musical alphabet of A through G to figure that out. Now for today's activity, it's going to be one that you'll be able to do on your own at home. And the activity is to come up with your own phrase to remember the lines and the spaces of these musical staffs. So remember, with the treble clef, you have E, G, B, D, and F. And for the spaces, we already have the word face. For the bass clef, you have G, B, D, F, A for the lines, and A, C, E, G for the spaces. Go ahead and be creative with the phrases that you make to help you remember the lines and spaces of these staffs. Be sure to comment in the comments below what you come up with, and also tag the tie center. That's all for today's video. In the coming videos, we'll go ahead and talk more about music. We'll start to read music and put together everything we've learned so far about rhythm and reading notes. We'll look at actual music, and we'll also cover a few more terms and important things that you need to know in being able to read music. But that's all for today. We'll see you next time.